bit of a start here. I'm going to go back to the lesson for tonight, so we'll just wait till the recording comes through and hope the internet can give us enough bandwidth so that we can get through the night.
Well, it says it's recording, but I don't know how to confirm.
It looks like it is. Thank you very much for that. So we do have a little red button.
Yep, it's there. It says it's going.
I think somebody had a cough there. So if you can all just mute your microphones. Tonight being the 19th, I'll just open up the attendance for tonight. And I sent you out a message today and said we might have a special visitor, and so Brett's there. Brett, do you want to grab the microphone for a little bit and have a chat to us? While you're here, welcome this evening. I'm assuming you can hear us okay, Brett. Go ahead, Brett, if you can get the microphone there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, real clear.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Adrian. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I've just got some feedback here. I'm gonna turn my Okay. How's that? Is that better?
Still a lot of feedback there.
All right, give us one tick.
I might turn my microphone off. That might help.
Yeah, it's just a bit slow at the moment. Can you still hear me all right? I'll be quick. I'll just have a quick chat and tell you what's going on.
I can hear you. I think your video is probably slowing it down, but we can hear you. Go ahead. It has gone quiet. Maybe turn your video off, Brett, because we've seen what you look like now with your growth. And then you might have enough bandwidth to be able to use microphone and talk. We'll shake your hand virtually. It's good to see you back and your front.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, real clear.
Hi, everyone. Look, I just got back this morning. I got cancelled the flights to, I was at Bali and I got cancelled the flights to North Sumatra. So I was lucky enough to get a flight home last night. I got home this morning. There's people in Bali that are still stuck there, so it's a bit of a drama. Can everyone hear me all right? So yes. I'm back on board. I've got 14 days in self-containment, so I'll be available online. Or if you want to send me any messages, I'll be a bit more available next week, obviously, because I've just got back. But if anyone's got any dramas, send us a message. I might go into it in a bit more detail next week. But I think I was saved by like half a day. If I was half a day longer or earlier, I would have been in North Sumatra and probably stuck. So I'm actually really lucky to get home. So anyway, my trip, my 2.5 week trip was 3 days. So, and now I've got 14 days self-containment. So anyway, such is life. But I suppose in saying that, for everyone else, if you are sick, and I suppose Adrian's gone through it, if you are feeling sick, please don't come in. The course can be worked from at home, and we'll go into that in more depth. Adrian will talk about it, and then we'll be looking at it at the end of next week too on what they're going to be doing. So, but thanks everyone. Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks a lot, Brett. Good to see you back safely, and so that's fantastic that you're there. So I have just a refresher for all the students and to go on the recording so that you can see it. I have open here in front of me the page for the Australian Building, for the Applied Building Codes and Standards, and I'm in lesson C6, which is tonight's lesson. You can tell it's tonight's lesson because you've got available for you, if I refresh here, your student view, you've got the attendance choice available for you tonight, the 19th of the 3rd, and maybe can you guys let me know, is it working? Billy, were you able to do the attendance? People online, it won't let you sign in, Alex. Does it work now? Studying online is saying it's full. Oh, sorry. I'll just do a quick change of that so that I can fix that up. I'm sorry, it was limited and I got most things reset, but I must have missed that one. So I'll just change that one. so we can let everybody in. Just grab that setting there. I think no limits. I think that should be right now. So if you retry that, you should be able to get into that and check. Just tick on there, make sure you can get in. I'll just jump in here and check and see if it's working. I can see 32 people have jumped in, whether you've been able to access it. Maybe just give us a thumbs up there if you're able to access it. Everybody okay? Very good. Is everybody able to access the attendance before we go on too far? Let's just see thumbs up there. You guys okay with the attendance?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go through the lesson tonight. Now I want to refresh once again that at the top of every lesson night, I've put up there you've obviously got your Teams access, and I've put up there some information for you which will take you directly to the TAFE New South Wales update, urgent updates, which was done a day or so ago in the afternoon regarding TAFE New South Wales studies. So that's probably your first port of call. Make sure you read and you're aware of that, because if you're in any way fluey, stay home. In fact, I think probably you'll find next week Brett's going to really encourage you to stay home if you at all can or would like to. But I'm still going to be here in the class in Wagga. I think most of the other classes will still have a teacher helping them. So if you need to come into class, then do come in. Please sit a fair way away from each other and try and have your distancing while we get through all of this. But we did a really good run through on Tuesday, and like in the message I sent out to you today that you should have all received. You should be concerned if you haven't received that, by the way, and make sure you change your settings so that you can receive it. I said that we did a real good run through on Tuesday, and everybody that I know of was able to access everything successfully. So just in case you get locked down, or we get locked down, or a small part of the TAFE somewhere gets locked down, you still can do your studies. Remember, our top priority is to help you get through the next week and a half of studies to be able to complete this unit, and I'm really confident that everybody will be able to do that successfully. So at the top of there, I'll put that information. Obviously, you've got your Australian standards and your National Construction Code sign up, and I've also placed a little header at the top there. So just listen up, guys. I've placed a little header at the top there for you to reference back to an activity that we did online the other night, which I'd like to encourage you to jump on and have a bit of a go at fairly regularly and look on there, because if 4:30 to 5:30, if there's nobody online, I'm just going to jump on and work my way through this activity. Basically, that just says share your experience of a building problem that could have been avoided. I'll have to add a little bit to there. Well, could have been avoided if you knew how to build it. And so based on your experience in building, please post a short description of a building problem that could have been avoided if things went wrong. And then I said there, please feel free to post each other's building problems or building solutions, I should say there, sorry. And I've just been going through and posting things there for you. That'll actually give you a green box at the top of your completions. But I'm just going to go through this, and anytime I see nothing's been discussed or solved, I'm going to go through and have a look at it. Just like tonight, we're going to have a look at different ones. So here, for example, Jay's got one here that we're going to have a look at tonight. So people are going to post different situations, and we want to be able to post where does the National Construction Code talk about that. Let's have a quick look at this one, for example, here from that Jason's put up. And we want to, and I want you to just post in there things like, where does the National Construction Code discuss it? So in this case, the roof was not flashed properly and it caused a leak. There's actually an amazing amount of these on all of your posts, and there's heaps of posts, maybe 50 or more posts that people are building problems. And we want to look and see where in the National Construction Code does it tell us the solution. And here, for example, if we go to 3532 for the 2019 code, that'll tell us that we need to make sure that we build according to these things here so that we can get it all sorted. So somebody's jumped on with a microphone on. If you just turn that off, that'd be great. So if you just post on there, and then when you've got a little bit of spare time at the beginning, I'm going to go through these and some of the other teachers from 4:30 to 5:30. Any that haven't got any replies, just jump on and do a little discuss the topic and just work our way through. And look how many there we've got. In fact, I can go back probably and have a look and see how many we've got there. I think somewhere here. Oh, I'm on as a student, so that might not tell me. But I think that's going to be real helpful for us to be able to make sure that we the main thing we want to get from this code is that we want to be able to learn how the code can help us to be able to solve building problems. Actually, I can't see how many's on there, so that's all good. So that's real important for you, just to keep up to date with that and follow through and work your way through, making sure that you can understand how to build a building correctly, so that because there's plenty of information there, and then we'll be able to use the National Construction Code real practically, so that we can solve problems and things that we come across. Now, it's not perfect and it's not finished. The National Construction Code has more work to be done, which will occur as time goes on. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to delve a little bit into Volume 2, which we've already done a little bit of. And now we're also going to delve a little bit into Volume 1 and have a look at that. And I've got a couple of activities here for you tonight that we're going to work on. So if you just refresh your screen there, we've got a little header there for Volume 2. We're going to recap and look at a couple of items regarding National Construction Code. You're real familiar with this one. So let's have a quick look at this one here. This is the PowerPoint, which pretty much shows us how the National Construction Code works, and you should understand this pretty good by now anyway. Maybe I'm overloading the system here, opening up too many things. Let's just have a look. Oh, jumped onto the wrong screen. So I think you can see there that we're dealing here with the National Construction Code, and we've got up there for you. Oh, that's going to shoot me through to the other screen, sorry. Let me just escape out of that one. So we've got the National Construction Code here, and you can see pretty much what this is going to deal with is how the code works. And in the code itself, you'll see it deals with things like, I'll get down here to the bottom. Oh, this one didn't have that on there, so we'll just get rid of a couple of these. We'll get rid of a bit of this, so we've got a little bit more room. So you can see pretty much the code. There's things that are listed in broad terms that tell us that, for example, a building must resist water or something like that. And then we can either go down to a deemed to satisfy solution, which we've been doing, where it says you can use Australian standard XYZ to resist the water, or you can use this method or that method or something like that. Or we can come across to a performance solution, which might be manufactured by a company who build technical documentation around their particular product. And they're the main ways of how we use the code to make sure that we comply. Okay, so we'll shut that down there and jump back here and have a look at a couple of the activities related to that. So what we're going to do now is have a look at a real practical activity. And this is one that Brett has posted some time ago. That's sort of one for us to have a bit of a look at. And so if you just refresh your screen, we're going to have a look at this particular activity here. And Brett says here, we've got a problem. We need help to be able to build a building correctly. And if you look at this particular activity where we can post some information, it says room heights help. I need a certifier. During renovation to an upper floor, they discovered plumbing pipes had to be lowered, and that affected the height of the ceiling. Please confirm the height that is permitted for a kitchen. So, for example, it's a Class 1A building. Ceiling height underside of plasterboard through most of the building is 2,400. So, are we allowed to have these plumbing pipes from an extension on the first floor? Are we allowed to have the plumbing pipes extending down below that 2,400, which is the bottom of that ceiling? And that's the question. I want you to jump onto the National Construction Code now, type a little post in there and tell us what you think the National Construction Code says about this for a kitchen of a Class 1A building, which has most of the kitchen has a ceiling height of 2,400. I'll just spend a couple of minutes going through and waiting for you to do a post on that. I'm going to return to my normal role while you do a little quick search through the NCC, and we'll have a look at what you've posted there. Yeah, go right ahead and have a chat online. That's great.
Room heights. Yeah.
So while we'll spend a couple of minutes on that. It's 5:45 now. We might spend 5 minutes and build up a couple of posts and see what people say about that. And then we'll have a look at a few of them.
have you turned off copy and paste, Adrian?
So the questions come through here. How come the National Construction Code won't allow copy and paste? It's very random. The answer to that is it's very random, and some versions do allow it and some don't. You probably, if you can see that it comes up with a copy, you might have a version of Adobe Acrobat Reader which allows you to. Sometimes where you've copied the Adobe from, it won't allow you to. I'd suggest that wherever you've got your version, make sure you've saved it onto your computer somewhere like I have, and make sure that when you go into the version that's on your computer and you go down to properties, you should be able to see that it's going to open it in Adobe Acrobat. Okay, you may have to change that. Sometimes you have to go, in fact, this version here hasn't got a lot of options on my program here. Most of the time when you right click on something, it'll have a big long line of options and it'll give you the option to open with something. Not sure if I get it when I go into here.
So that means you can put files.
Let's have a quick look on here and see if I get that option. Oh yeah, so this is the common option that you'll get. When you have a file there, if you right click on it, it'll give you lots of different options, and you want to have open with Adobe Acrobat. By default, and every month or so, your computer will automatically default to opening with Microsoft Edge. And if that happens, it's pretty useless trying to navigate your way around these big documents. So you can change that by right clicking on the file and go properties, and then set that so that it opens with Adobe Acrobat. Okay, it'll by default, it'll go to Microsoft Edge really frequently. It did it for me again today or yesterday. So I just pick one file that's an Adobe Acrobat file and I change it here under properties, apply it and go okay. And then every time I get one of those files, it'll open up in a version that will allow me to do copy and paste usually and things like that. That's really important that you're able to copy and paste from the document. So that way you can actually select some information from it and you can copy it. Some of the Australian standards it still won't let you, and there's just no way around it. Sometimes you've just got to type it in manually, but hey, it's not too bad. At least if you know where to find the information, that's great. So let's have a look at what some people are saying here. Remember, we've got our little problem here about are our pipes going to reduce our ceiling height? So let's see what Douglas has got in here. Douglas in this one says 3822. That's obviously the third part of volume 2, which is the more practical part. And it says there, that's awesome. So in a kitchen, we're allowed down to 2.1. That's great, that one. So thank you for that. He's given us a reference to there. I'm suspecting everybody's going to have that same reference. You're making me feel like I've been a good teacher for this particular unit. Everybody's got that there. That's great. So to be able to navigate around your code like that, imagine how good that would be, because this particular issue comes up on the spot. You walk in one day and the plumber's been, and the plumber's gone and punched holes in the ceiling like this and put the pipes in, and you've got to make split decisions whether that's allowable or not, or whether it's going to be passed. In this particular case, that's black plumbing pipe, which is normally Geppert type pipe, which is for boiling water. In a more commercial industrial type environment, normal pipes are just white because they don't have to take boiling water. And so what you'd probably do there once that's been finished is you'd frame that up and allow some access to some of the bends in the pipes or some things like that. But all in all, your ceiling in the kitchen is going to have parts of it which are below the 2.4. And you've all been awesome. I feel like we've really been getting this unit across to you, because you've all been able to go straight to the code, and you've demonstrated that you can access the code to be able to find the ceiling height. So look, don't need to spend any more time talking about that one. You've just done great. And I'll go on. I'll just check what I've got here for this one for. Okay, so you've all done great there. I don't even need to. I will show you what the answer was in that particular one, which you've all gone to and found anyway. So that's fabulous. Now, I'm real confident that you've got a real good grasp of volume 2. Just let's refresh our memory here on volume 2 before we go on to volume 1, because volume 1 is quite confusing. So for volume 2, I know you already probably know it, I'm just going to get to the point where I can make this a little bit wider. This computer's going quite slow. And I'm going to start at the top on the left-hand side here. And anything that's pointing down, I'm going to shrink it up so I can see the overall concept of what's in this document. There we go. So in fact, I can see there everything that's in the document. It's going to have the cover content, section 1, governing requirements, section 2 is performance provisions, and section 3 is the acceptable construction. Those two parts there, section 2, I think you can see there only that information. Section 1, 2 and 3, that's where we live. Okay, so section 1 tells us broadly a bit about the code. It's got classes of building and things like that. Section 2 tells us broadly what a building needs to do, and section 3 tells us how to do it. And then of course the last thing here, schedule 4, tells us where our Australian standards are. Definitions define things, and then state and territory, and there's other things there that are important. So that's pretty much how volume 2 works. Now volume 1's a different beast altogether, and it'd be lovely if they use the same formatting, but they don't. And there's not much we can do about it. We just got to, they're slowly changing things, and I propose that sometime down the track they probably will make it a bit easier to navigate. But in the meantime, before I actually reveal it, let me just show you how volume 1 works. So up here I've got volume 1. I'm going to get rid of that little bit over there and shrink this down so you can see a little bit more that it is volume 1. And this is the 2019 version. So make sure you're on the 2019 version, because the activities you do in the course that I'm doing here, they pretty much won't work for the older version. In fact, a couple of them did on Tuesday night, sorry, because I hadn't changed them over. So if we click on the little bookmark there, we'll get ourselves a really helpful little guide for navigating the code. And once again, I'm going to shrink up all the arrows on the far left that are pointing down so that I can see an overall view of what this book is all about.
How did you pull out the 2 in the 1 page up the top?
I've pulled questions come through here. A very good question about how did I pull up the 2 in the 1 page. So that's volume 2. Okay. And this one here is volume 1. The way I've pulled that up is that I've opened both of them. So each computer works differently, but I've gone into volume 1 and I've opened it, and I've gone into volume 2 and I've opened it. And for some reason, it doesn't matter whether yours does this or not, my version of Adobe, which is, where does it say about Adobe, which mine looks like a version 2020. It's a fairly late version there. That's come up with them both on different tabs. It uses a tab system at the top. If yours doesn't come up like that, then down the bottom here somewhere you'll have your different versions that are available there. So we're going to spend a little bit of time looking at version 1. And I want to shrink all of these up so we can get an overview of how version 1 works. And there we have them all there. So with version 1, just like version 2, we have sections, but this uses numbers. So in version 2, we have number 1, 2, and 3, and we live in 2 and 3. In volume 1, 2019, we have our sections that use letters instead of numbers. So straight away, that's going to help us when we do our navigation around this particular big document. This one's a 750-page document. And when we see anything through here that's got a D or like a letter in front of it, we should know straight away that we're going to volume 1, sorry. Okay, so here we talk about structure as section B, fire resistance as C, access and egress, E is services and equipment, health and amenity, ancillary provisions, special use buildings. So they're the main areas where we're going to live. And then we've got our governing requirements. If we want to have a quick look at any of these, for example, governing requirements, section A, all I did is click that little button to extend all the headings. And you can see here we've got building classification. And then for most of you, when we click on there and just scroll down a bit, you'll be able to see that once we start working our way down there from that particular part, building classification, it's got introduction and that type of thing, and it'll go down there and it'll start doing all of our classifications for our buildings. So I can shrink that back up, and then I can come down here to structure. I can expand structure, click on structure here, and it tells us a little bit about structure. Come down a little bit further, and it's got a lot of the provisions and things. So if I expand on that, I actually get all of the different things to do with structure there. So we've got And these ones are listed interestingly, because with these we have section B. Remember, that's a letter, not a number. And then once we start jumping down below section B, we start going B1, and then B1.1, B1.2, 0.3, 0.4. So that's B1 in there. And in this particular case, they're all listed as B. Some of them might go to C2 or something like that. I'm not quite sure how each individual one works, but as we expand them out, we can see there's information there. And most of them pretty much the same, where we have structural provisions, performance requirements, structural provisions, and some information like that. You can see with this one here, we've got C is fire resistance. If I expand that one out there, we've got structural ability, spread of fire, they extend down, and each of those just gives us more information. So without jumping into too quick and getting too confused, you'll see that most of these will have an ability to be able to quickly jump to these things. In this particular one here, we've got structure at the top. We go down a little tiny bit and we'll come to structural provisions. Before we go quite that far underneath structure, we've got some headings, and each of those headings allows us to tick on it. First of all, we've got our performance requirements. Now, our performance requirements in volume 2 are here under section 2, and then we have our acceptable construction. With volume 1, we have our performance requirements, and then we have our verification methods and more information down there. So we kind of have a performance requirements for each different item. We don't just have a whole section on performance requirements quite so much. So that gives us a performance requirements for structure, and then we go into so that's the structural performance requirements. Okay, it lists all the things to do with that there. We can even expand that a bit further if we want to. And then when we come down here to fire resistance, we're going to have our different parts here where we'll go into some of the different performance and requirements for things as we go through. So we start to get this structure where we've got, for example, section B, and then we've got section B, part B1, and then we've got BP 1.1. And under that, we might even have more things. If I expand that out a little bit, I think you can probably just see on the side there. If I bring this across, you can see for this one, we've got a BP1. So B1 is the structural provisions. BP means performance requirement, and that's 1.1. And that'll go through for some more, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. And then we come to a thing called verification methods. And this will be a BV. So B is the section, and then V is the verification. And we can keep on working down there as we go looking for things. And then eventually that's number 2. And eventually we come down to our structural provisions. And this is where it starts to feed us into some more specific information. Look at that there. This particular one refers us to Australian 70 Standards 1170, which is the Australian standard for loads on buildings. Okay, so this has gone down real specific into how our building is built. And then we keep on coming down there. And remember, this is under the part here for structural provisions. And this is under deemed to satisfy provisions. I personally think that heading there probably needs to be much bigger because on volume 2, it's basically deemed to satisfy as a really big heading for things, but this is pretty much what tells us. So for volume 1, we see deemed to satisfy, it's going to refer back to these performance requirements. And that's pretty much how this code is quite different. Volume 1 is quite different in its labelling to volume 2 and how it works. Now let's go to, I think I've already turned this on for you, so let's jump back to, just refresh this, and let's jump to our PowerPoint here on energy efficiency and have a bit of a quick look at how this actually works for energy efficiency. In this particular example, let's think for residential, we need to meet the performance requirement for energy efficiency. Under volume 2, if it's residential, it's going to be P261 for building. And that's the type of thing it might say. You have access to this PowerPoint yourselves. So basically it says a building must have a level of thermal performance to facilitate the efficient use of energy. I'm pretty sure that's the wording from volume 2019, but if that's a little bit different, just forgive me for not getting everything up to 2019. I think I've got most things. And so it says, how can we achieve this? And we go to part 3. So that's a key right there. If you see part 3 point something, then that's going to mean volume 2. If it was not a letter, not a number, but a letter, that would be volume 1 generally. So these are some of the things that it talks about in volume 2. and then we look here focusing on one of them. In this particular case, 3.12.1 as the building fabric. And if I go now back to volume 2, and if we look at 3, which is here, I'm on volume 2. So on volume 2, if we go to 3.12.1.4, so I'm on 3 here. Where are we? Section 3. So we're on section 3. And if I go down here till 12, which comes up to this one, I'll just pump that up onto the side there so you can see it and give you a little bit more magnification so you can see a little bit better. So back here on our PowerPoint that's available to you, we're looking for 3.12.1.4, so we can see exactly what's required for external walls. So 3.12.1.4 A and B. If we go to 3.12, I don't know whether these are linkable, these ones, so we've got to use the side here. And we're looking 3.12.1.4. There's 3.12.1. And we're looking for 3.12.1.4. So I'm just going to go to, I think it was 3.12.1.4. So that's back up here. 3.12.1, the building fabric. This talks about the building fabric, and the one that I've highlighted here for you for external walls is 4. So we'll just go down till we get to point 4. That's point 2, roofs. Keep on going down here. If you want to find that quickly, just to bring up the, from wherever you are, bring up the, I think it was external walls, not floors. So I'm just going to bring up wall, and that should take us quickly through. There you go. It's taken us straight through to the next instance from the page where I was to 3.12.1.4. And this is going to tell us about external walls. So I'm just going back here to look at what it's asking, what I've directed you to. In this particular case, we're looking at what the details are for the building fabric for external walls. And it says there we must achieve a total R value of 2.8. So here we go. We can read through here. It says each part of an external wall must satisfy the requirements of B for all walls, which is here. And if we keep going down here, you'll see that there's a little bit of information there for certain types of walls. And we come down here and we see each part of an external wall must, in climate zones 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, achieve a minimal total R value of 2.8. Okay, so anybody guess what type of climate zone we are in here in the Wagga area, for example? We can look at it. The Illawarra area would be a bit different, so we're going to have to zoom that up, obviously. But this particular map specifies the different climate zones in Australia, and you all can access it yourself, and it should come out a lot clearer than that if you allow it to load fully. And if you're not quite sure, hey, it's quite easy because you can just jump down here and search for your town. So what have we got here? Climate zones, various locations. The easiest way to search for that for Wollongong is to just bring it up here as Wollongong. There's Wollongong. There's 4 times that's mentioned. Let's go to the first one. There it is there. And you're in a climate zone of 5. Wagga's in a 4. It's because it's pretty hard to see on the map there. It's a bit small. So that tells us pretty much that if we're in a 1 or a back where we were on 3.12.1.4. I'm just going to go quickly to that so we can jump straight to it. Oh, there's 26 matches to that, so let's just jump to that one. Here we go. So if we're in a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's pretty much probably going to be most of us. I suspect Cooma might be a bit different. Or if we've got anybody up in the highlands there, maybe Goulburn, or I know there's a student up in Mossvale, that might be a little bit different. I'm not quite sure. But in mostly that's going to be the requirement for the outside of the building. Now, when we talk about a requirement of achieving an R value of 2.8, so that's pretty straightforward. That tells us a little about what R value means here. That's meters squared kilowatts per watt. And it's got definitions of that in the code. But we have to basically choose a type of material. And if you look in your code to figure, I think it's figure 3.12.1.3, you'll see that diagram there, which lists the external wall construction, and that shows you a 0.48 value of the construction. So I'm just going to go through and show you what that looks like. I think that figure's just down the bottom here a little bit. Just scroll down and find that one. That might be it there. So this particular one says here that a weatherboard external wall construction gives us a total R value of 0.48. Now, of course, the question is that 0.48 per metre or per square metre or per what? And so if you go and look at the word total R value, which will be up here, it's based on per metre squared, kilowatts per metre squared. Okay, so pretty much we need to, I should have remembered where I was back then a second ago because I'll lose it. So that'll give you 0.48 per metre squared, and we need 2.8. So in those areas, we would have to go and probably put some insulation and some things like that in there, okay, to be able to increase it. So that hopefully helps you with how to satisfy that. I think that goes through some of the points there, and that's pretty straightforward for that particular one. Hopefully you're feeling a bit more confident in that. Now what I'm going to do is open up a little chat box for you. Chance now to get another green box of completions. And this one here says, in your own words, if you have built a wall that has a total R value which exceeds 3, would you meet compliance, and how is it achieved? So I'm going to help you here. Actually, I might leave it a bit for you to have a think about it. So there's two things we're after in this question. Would you meet compliance, yes or no? And how is it achieved? In other words, which method are you using? Out of the two methods that we can use for compliance. If you forgot what methods they were, here they actually, I'll just go to the code and show you the different methods for compliance. I'll put that up on the screen while you're thinking about posting your comment there. And you'll be so sick of seeing this picture that as soon as I put it up, you'll recognise it. This one here. And your job is to note in your comment which particular method are we using out of the two options for being compliant. So it says we need a minimum 2.8. We have a wall where we've chosen enough materials to get 3. Are we compliant? Obviously the answer there is yes, just in case you weren't quite sure. And then the option there, then what you need to do is think, are we using a deemed to satisfy solution, or have we used a performance solution to be able to be compliant? Let's go and see what you all say. I think this is a pretty easy question, this one. So let's see how you go. Has anybody posted anything and got the little green box yet? No. No posts. Josh is first. Good job, Josh. Yes, we would be compliant. And we're using the performance solution. If we were using a standard system, that if we were using a system that somebody had developed and produced, but there's probably not enough information there in your answer to, if you told us what type of system, that's probably okay. But in this particular case, we would, if we're using, I'll just jump back to this PowerPoint and have a look. This one here on energy efficiency. If we're using the method that's been shown here, this one here, 3.12.1.3 in the code. If we're using 3.12.1, that's probably going to take me to it anyway, external walls. If we're using a method that's shown here in the code and gives us a reading in the code and gives us a specific type of construction, in this case it's weatherboard, and it's 0.48 rating, okay, then we're using a deemed to satisfy method. If we're using this one here, fibre cement sheet, external wall, built like that, then, and it gives us 0.42, we're using a deemed to satisfy method. If we're using a clay masonry veneer external wall and it gives us 0.56 kilowatts per metre squared, then we're using a deemed to satisfy method. If we're using any of these ones that are listed here in the codes, we're using a deemed to satisfy method. Okay, so let's just refresh this here. Let's go and have a look and see what you've got in your chats there. We are going to come to the other one, to the performance solution method. Okay, he's using a DTS. Good job. So DTS is very specific, and it's basically using a system that's been specified and tested by Australian standards or some organisation that's tested things, and they've written down all the details. If we build things according to the details, then it'll all be fine. Now, I'm glad, I forget which one it was, I think it might have been Josh brought up the point about performance solution, because I want to highlight to you, I'll just show you where you can find this so you can have a look for yourselves, because this is pretty useful for you, I would think. You've all posted probably, I'd say 50 or 80 or more building problems based on last Tuesday night's exercise that I set for you. And because I think that'll be so useful for you to be able to solve your problems, I've put it here in the bottom of the headers for every night. And there it is there. So if you just go in there and you click on the headers, you'll get to this one here where you can share your building experience. And we had one here that was a performance solution. And it used something that I'm pretty sure you'll all cotton onto. Here we are. And so I thank Jay for posting this one, because Jay's posted a problem here where he said somebody's used Scion sheeting, which I reckon a lot of you are using these days, from what I can tell. And the problem here was that something to do with the construction details. They're not installed according to the required angle at the junction of the external Scion sheeting flooring, and it had leaked and caused dramas. So let's have this is actually Scion sheeting is a product, it's a brand name. We can tell it's a brand name of a product because it's not mentioned in the National Construction Code, and we'll find out who actually lists it, and it's scion.com.au. I've got an idea that's a CSR product. Maybe somebody can help me with that, and we can find out who owns the ABN. James Hardy, there it is. I've gone to the bottom of their website, and that's told me who owns Scion. Now, they've bought themselves a domain called scion.com.au because they want to, all sorts of reasons, they want to keep it separate, but it's actually produced and manufactured and researched by James Hardy. If you look at the contact for the business, you can often find out who made it. In this particular case, it doesn't have a name or a phone, might have a phone number and that type of thing. But anyhow, it's a James Hardy product, and it's pretty good. Lots of people are using it these days. I would say that's where they've probably used it on the side there. I'm not quite sure, but we're going to have a little bit further look at it. So we're talking here about Scion, and we want to know whether it's a deemed to satisfy or a performance solution. I can tell you now that it's a performance solution because I think I might have spelt that wrong. What did you call it? SCYON, yep. So SCYON. When I type in a search here for that word, for that product, it's not going to come up with anything. Okay, I'll just make sure I've spelled it correctly. So I'll go to the James Hardy website and grab the word Scion from somewhere up there. There we go, SCYON. And I'll go back to the code, SCYON, and it's not mentioned in there. But that product is actually wall cladding. That's mostly how they do it. So let's just have a look and see from our point of view, where do they tell us to use it? Let's have a look at Scion walls and make sure we get to the home page. In this particular case, they've said featured homes, how-to articles, discover how cladding and weatherboards create beautiful individual looks. So this comes under the cladding and weatherboards part of the National Construction Code. And these guys who have produced this have to meet the requirements of the National Construction Code. So their requirements are no different to anybody else's. They have to meet the performance requirement, which is up the top here. I'll come back here to, so it's number 3, acceptable construction. And that in their particular case, it's dealing with cladding. So we come down here and shrink a few of these so we can see where we're at. And we're looking at roof and wall cladding. So they have to meet this particular one, which is 3.5. That one there may be better for them, 3.5.4, but definitely they're dealing with 3.5. Let's have a look at 0.4 because this is probably more of a composite type one. And if it's a composite, which I think it probably is, you'd have to look in the material safety data sheet for it. It doesn't mention Scion here, but they would have to have their own technical documentation. So the performance requirement they've got to meet is 2.1 and 2.2. The performance requirement for 2.1 says, oh, I clicked on the wrong thing there. So let's just jump back up to here to the performance requirement. In this particular case, performance requirement 2.1, I think that's going to, there, it takes me to here, and it says a building or structure during construction and use with appropriate degrees of reliability must perform adequately under all reasonably expected actions, withstand extreme or frequently repeated design actions, etc., etc. I think it says here a little bit, we could pick up about weather. So that's dead loads, live loads, wind action. That's what the cladding has to help with. Liquid pressure action. Definitely it's got to perform well against liquid pressure action. Rainwater action, there you go. It's not allowed to be, harmed in any way by rainwater action. So it's got all the details there about what it has to resist. Now it comes down here to more construction practice, and eventually it'll come down here to things like composite type cladding, and they will have to meet the requirements for that. Now, pretty much for products it won't actually mention the Scion product, but when you come to the different product, the manufacturer is the one who's going to produce the documentation that we use that would look like the deemed to satisfy solutions. So in here, you have to pick one. Just, I don't know whether Josh is online there. This was, oh, Jay. I don't know whether you're online or not, Jay, but if you're online, or if somebody can just type into the chat box, just tell us what you're using mostly these days as a product. Are we looking 150 linear, 180 linear, or the 255 splayed? What's somebody used recently who might have experience about this? If you don't answer soon, I'll probably just pick one. I'm not actually sure which one Jay was referring to. It's not coming up on the chat there, so I'll just pick this one. So I'm going to pick one of these because they have lots of different products. And this is your 180 linear weatherboard. There we go. This is your linear weatherboard. And there'll be documentation in here somewhere. I haven't pre-prepared this, so there'll be information and documentation in here somewhere for builders and people who use it to tell them about all the details about this. Because remember I said earlier, we said in the work health safety unit, that a manufacturer legally is not allowed to produce a product without telling us how it's worked, what the dangers of the product are, or potential dangers. There we go, technical installation information. It's usually hidden in the website because most people don't want to know about that. They just want to see the pretty pictures. And here we come to product details, and eventually we'll come to somewhere there some information about the material safety data sheet, which I'm interested in, and also the installation information. So there's actually no links on that one, but here's some specifications. And then we've got example of accessories, and here's our technical resources. So we've got quite a bit of information there. Looks like we've got an installation guide. We've got a warranty code mark. You can actually grab all of those. Looks like there's only 4 pieces of information there. The installation guide is going to be useful to us. And that, once again, has come down as a PDF document. So you may have to download it into your computer to get a real good visibility of it. But this information here, if we look at the heading, it's going to tell us some real important information. That's a 12-page booklet, which gives us the installation notes that the James Hardie Company has had scientists test and putting in from testing and designing. And this is May last year. They've tested and designed this and made this available, and it has not yet made its way into the National Construction Code. Okay, this will tell us things like what you would get if you went and bought a toaster tomorrow. It'll tell you a little bit about it. It'll show you some pictures of all the buttons on your toaster. In this case, some of the accessories that you might need to be able to make it. It tells you a bit about designs and compliance. You can see, I think, quite clearly there that it says all design and construction must comply with the National Construction Code. So they're going to give us information there of how we can still meet the code, which is all good. They refer to Australian Standard 4055, which we're going to look at in depth when we do structures later on this year. And this particular one is going to say that all their cladding must meet that. Okay, they're going to talk there about the important for the specifier and probably the installer to make sure they know how it works, so you don't have the problem that Jay had. Talks a bit about information there. It's just referring you straight through to Australian standards. Okay, it does have some information here that Australian standards don't have for this particular product. because this particular product is so new that it hasn't made it into the Australian standards. Okay, and that's good because these guys can manufacture these products quite quickly. And I think we saw there somewhere May 2019 had a date there when some information on this product was put out. So it's fairly recent, and it takes quite a while for information to get into the National Construction Code, because it's got to go through a lot more responsibility. So this will talk about information there with termites, fire rating, structural bracing, all those sorts of things. It'll tell you actually what to use for. In this particular example, it tells you your fire rating. They actually have more information there on their application guide and technical specifications. So there's more you might have to contact them for. And then they tell you, just looking for specifically something there about the size nails or fasteners that you might have to use. So these guys are going to actually tell you the exact type of nail that you should get when you go to buy them. Here we go. This is an example of what you get from this. These guys have done the testing, and they said you need to use 60mm by 3.5mm diameter bullet head nails for that particular example. In this case here, you've got to use linear PVC starter strip and those things. If you don't build things exactly according to that, you'll have Jay's problem potentially, where Jay said that he's got that issue. So I'm just going to copy that there, copy that document. I'm going to reply to Jay here, and for Jay, I'm going to put in there this product is not in the NCC volume 2, probably because it is too new. Refer to here for refer to manufacturers. URERS details, as this is a performance solution tested by the manufacturer. And there you go. So there's your details for that one. I've posted up there. So now Jay can run around and say, grab that document, talk to the people who, wherever it came from, and check, and you'll find that gives you your solution to your thing there. So hopefully that works pretty good for you all. Now, that's pretty much almost all I'm going to go through with you tonight. I'll just check my list of things here and make sure that we're all good. So hopefully what you've got from tonight is information there on, some good information there on the different, how you can access the different codes and look at the different things. There's one more activity there for you where it's going to ask you for to have a bit of a quick look and type into the chat pod information there about volume 1. And this particular one's pretty straightforward, because this will show you, basically says here, list the sections from volume 1. That's pretty, I'm going to put a little post in there to help you all with that. So to find the best way to get the different sections from volume 1 is to grab your bookmarks on the left hand side, and you can see I've got all the sections listed there, and then I'm going to just copy that part of the page. So most people with a Windows document, if you push Shift and the window and S together, it'll dull everything, and then it'll give you the option to click and drag all around the different sections. And I'm just going to grab all the sections there, and that's basically taken a photo of that page. And then when I add a new discussion topic here, that's going to allow me to put that in there, I hope. Maybe it's not. No, it's not. I'd have to turn it into a photo first. Righto, that's probably a little bit more complicated than what you, maybe than what you need right now. You can actually jump in and grab this information if you want to. I'm just going to save this, put this in here for now, and then I'll post that up into there. So I've got to just grab that photo and put it in there. It's not always that easy to find, and that will get us our posting there. Just grab that. Just have to watch where you put it, where you put things. In this particular case, I'm just going to pop it on the desktop as untitled for a second till I go and grab it here, and then I can jump back to my desktop and grab that one, and I'll be able to upload it into here. And you're welcome to use that too if you want to. Sections. That will put it into my post. I'll do my little post. So I'll put a little post in there for you. Someone else has done one. Josh has done one. Fantastic.
Do we have to copy every single one?
You just grab a quick picture of it, or take a photo with your phone and upload it or something, or just type in a section A to whatever it is, and then look at the section on structure and explain what BP 1.1 might mean in your own words. So I'm going to let you all loose to do that one. I'm going to open up a video for you that you can watch in your own time. That's quite interesting, actually. This particular video is one that Brett's put up from a job that he did one time. I'm not going to actually play that now because we're going to be here too long otherwise. But I do want to just show you quickly, if I just pause that one, I want to show you quickly that Brett built a building years ago, which he's put pictures on there about, and he's discussing that and talking about how that relates to the deemed to satisfy provisions from volume 1, because it's a commercial building that's down at Narooma. And so there's some real good information there for you to be able to understand how deemed to satisfy works for volume 1. So I want to just open up for a second and ask, are there any questions about the content that we've been going through tonight for volume 1? Are there any questions by people at this stage, or is there anything that any of the teachers would like to add? I think we've got Stuart there. We've got, I'm not sure if Nowra's there. Have we got anybody in Nowra? Could you just check if you've got any questions? Is there any questions about? Stuart, did you have anything that you wanted to add regarding volume 1 and being able to easily navigate and find their way around volume 1? Do you have any tips to add there?
All I would add is that you need to, first of all, find out what year the construction certificate was approved for the construction that you're working on. Because even though you're working on a house in 2020, if the construction certificate was prior to NCC 2019, for example, it may be the applicable construction NCC code is 2016. So we all need to reference back to when we're doing a new project or doing additions and alterations, if there has been a PCA certification giving a construction certificate, we need to see what volume of the NCC has been referenced, because that way you then go to, like we did when we were looking at standards the other week, you go to see which standards have been referenced to work against, because you have some certifiers will come out and say, hang on a second, no, you haven't done it as per the current standard, but the construction certificate might be 3 years old, and it may be not the very latest one, it's the one that was actually referenced in the appropriate NCC.
Thank you for that. I'm going to open it up to the students. Has anybody got any questions that they have about that? Because that's actually a really good point. And I've got a couple of questions if no one else has, but does anyone have any questions regarding that, of situations that they might come across where that can become an issue? And I've opened up the quizzes for tonight too, by the way, so you can go ahead and do that. So I've got a question for you about that, Stuart. Let's say, for example, in this bushfire case where people might have parts of their damage that wasn't structural, that's damaged by the bushfire, and it might be a 3 or 4 year old building, so it might have been built according to the 2016 code. The way that they would have to rebuild it, would it be according to the 2016 code where the building was approved, or would they need to redo that according to the 2019 code?
It would need to be to the 2019 code.
For any new work that's done on a building?
For any new work that's being done on a building that needs to have, so for example, if they're doing work on a building that's already been approved and it hasn't been affected by fire, they can stick with that. The applicable NCC is what was referenced in the construction certificate, so it'll be 2016. But if they're now going onto a site because Mrs. Smith's lost her shed, or he or she's had significant fire damage, the new construction would be approved under 2019.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So potentially people could be even going back to earlier construction codes to be able to reference, possibly.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up now to pretty much anybody to put a chat in, or also to be able to go and do the activities. While those activities are running there, I'm just going to go back and share with you the National Construction Code. And if you go to the Australian Buildings Code Board, you can actually find the old codes there. They're referenced. Sometimes you've got to search back a little bit to be able to find them. But there, for example, is the 2016 code. It says right across the front of it, it's archived. And you can keep on going back. I'm not sure how far back it goes, but we can go back and have a look. There's the 2016 series. You might already know, Stuart, well, there's the 2013 guide. 2012 series.
Yep.
You're really interested to see how far back they go.
It goes back to 2000 and it goes back to the early 2000s.
Well, there we've got the old 1990 BCA and some of those ones.
Yep.
Obviously, they're all archived, and they've been superseded. But look, you can still view those. So that's interesting. And here we have the 1988 contains the requirements for all classes of buildings. So we talked about this right at the beginning in the first night. So Stuart, thank you very much for your help, and the other teachers. I'm not quite sure what other teachers are on there tonight. On Monday night, we're going to continue a little bit more with this. On Tuesday night, we're going to have a quiz, and that'll be either in class or at home. Like I said earlier, we're encouraging you, if you can, to do your work from home so that you avoid, because the Australian and the New South Wales government and the TAFE guidance for coronavirus, which you can see at the top of the page here, is advising that you do limit contact as much as you can. And definitely, if you've got a cold, don't come. You can still join us and do everything we're doing here. We're here from 4:30 till generally 8 o'clock, or till people have gone. And so there's no reason why you can't keep on working through all of your work successfully. If you look at the overall course here, I'll jump over to a teacher view so you can see fully, and this can be on the recording. We can actually see that what we have happening is, I think there's 12 lessons here. We're up to lesson 6 tonight. We're going to have lesson 7 on Monday night, which will be some more performance solutions, which is outside of the code. There's a quiz for next Tuesday night. We talk about fire safety next Thursday night. And then the following Monday, we talk about fire safety continued. And then on the following Tuesday, that's 2 weeks before Easter, we look at C11, which is some more energy efficiency, and we'll do disability commercial and things like that for the last one, which is the last lesson for this particular unit. So we've got another 2 weeks left after tonight, and then that's it for this unit, and you will have a week off. Thank you very much, Stuart. Would you mind stopping that recording now, and then hopefully you're okay to pop it up online. And then if anybody's got any questions, please pop in and ask the questions.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you much. Thank you.